The fire burns bright, while the wind howls outside.
High in the silent mountains of northern Persia, a fortress is waiting beneath the snow. For centuries, its stone walls have watched over the ancient forests of Jilin. Tonight, you are going to enter those walls. Not as a visitor standing among forgotten ruins, but as a silent traveler, arriving on a winter night when Roudkhan Castle is still alive. Snow falls softly through the dark forest. The narrow mountain path disappears behind you. And ahead, beyond the mist, the ancient walls begin to rise from the mountainside. You climb the final steps. The great stone gate stands before you. A warm light flickers somewhere beyond it. You hear the faint sound of footsteps, the quiet crackle of a fire, and the wind moving through the battlements above. Then, the heavy wooden gate opens. You step inside. The snowy forest remains behind you. Within these ancient walls, the night is warm, quiet, and still. Take a moment to listen. To the soft wind. To the distant fire. To your footsteps against the old stone floor. Tonight, there is nowhere else you need to go. Only deeper into the fortress. Deeper into the quiet of the mountain. And deeper into a forgotten winter night. Welcome to Forgotten Hours. If you enjoyed these peaceful journeys through ancient Persia, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Forgotten Hours. Now, let the snow fall outside, and follow the old stone passage ahead, into the heart of Roudkhan Castle. Sleep inside a snowy Persian castle, Roudkhan. Chapter 1. The Snowy Ascent and the Gate. The trees are the first thing you notice. They stand close together. Enormous trunks rising into a pale gray sky. Beech and hornbeam, their bare branches laced with wet snow. Below them, the ground is thick with old leaves, now pressed flat beneath a white layer that settled sometime in the night. You are already on the mountain. The path rises in front of you. It is made of stone, old, moss-edged stones laid into the hillside long enough ago that the mountain has begun to reclaim them. Snow sits in the grooves between them. Here and there, where the trees grow densest, the stones are nearly bare, sheltered by branches that hold the weight of the snowfall in their arms. You walk slowly. There is no hurry tonight. The forest is quiet in the way that only winter forests can be. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of things resting. A faint wind moves through the canopy above. It shifts the branches just enough to send small cascades of snow drifting downward, soft as breath. You feel the cold on your face. Not the sharp, biting cold of a plain in winter. This is something softer, wetter. The air here carries moisture. The Hyrcanian forest holds the sea in its memory, even this high, even in the deep of winter. The damp settles on everything. On the stones. On the bark of the trees. On the patches of dark green moss that cling to the roots near the path. You step around a frozen puddle. The ice is thin at the edges, where the cold has crept in from the sides, but milky white at the center. You do not break it. You step around it and continue upward. The path bends. Through the trees, you catch a glimpse of something above. A wall. Dark stone, far up the slope, partially obscured by mist and by the branches that lean toward it. You stop for a moment and look. The wall is not enormous. It does not tower over you the way a city wall might. But it belongs to the mountain. It rises from the rock itself, as though the hillside simply continued upward and became stone in a different way. Battlements along the top edge, faint in the distance. A tower, its profile softened by snow, visible just above the tree-line. You continue climbing. The steps are irregular here. Some are wide and flat, old and worn smooth. Others are narrower, slightly tilted, where the hillside has shifted beneath them over the years. You place your feet carefully. Your hand occasionally touches the stone surface beside you, a low retaining wall along one section of the path, barely knee-height, dressed with a thick ridge of wet snow. The snow compresses under your touch. Cold water seeps between your fingers. You lift your hand and continue. Above you, the forest changes slightly. The hornbeam trees are thicker here, their pale trunks curving in the way hornbeams do, never quite straight, always slightly leaning. A few still hold their dried leaves from autumn. The leaves are small, brown, rattling faintly when the wind moves through them. They make the only sound the forest offers. That dry, papery whisper above the soft silence of the snow. The mist is thicker now. 10 or 15 steps ahead, the path is clear. Beyond that, it dissolves into pale gray. The fortress somewhere above you is invisible again. The trees close in. You breathe the air slowly. It smells of wet earth, of bark, of something green and cold that you cannot name exactly, the living breath of old forest in winter. A sound reaches you. You pause. A small stream, somewhere below the path, moving beneath a skin of ice. You hear it through the stone, a muffled trickling, as though the water is speaking to itself in a whisper beneath the frozen surface. You stand still for a moment and listen. Then the sound fades as you move on. The path curves around a large root system, 2 or 3 old beech trees standing so close together that their roots have grown into one another. The roots arch above the ground between them, creating a small hollow space, dark and dry beneath the snow-heavy canopy. A thick cushion of moss fills the hollow. Green, almost impossibly green, when everything else around it is white and brown and gray. You look at it for a moment. Then you look up. The sky above the treetops is a flat, soft white. Clouds entirely. No break in them. The snow that fell earlier came from those clouds, and they are still full. More steps. The path rises more steeply here. You lean slightly into the climb. Your breath comes a little faster, visible in front of you as small clouds that drift upward and dissolve. The stone beneath your feet is darker here, wetter. Water seeps through the hillside constantly in this forest, and the stones are always damp with it. Around you, the trees thin slightly. A rocky outcrop appears on your right, a shelf of gray stone jutting from the hillside, its upper surface dusted with snow, its underside bare and dark. Ferns have rooted in a crack along its base. They are collapsed now in the cold, but even flattened they hold their shape, curled fronds pressed against the stone like a signature. You rest your hand on the outcrop as you pass. The stone is solid beneath your palm, cold and sure. The mist shifts, and for the first time since you started climbing, you see the fortress clearly. It is above you, much closer than it seemed. The walls are real now, not a distant shape in the fog, but stone. Stacked carefully, fitted tightly. The stones are the same gray-brown color as the mountain itself, as though someone simply organized what was already here. Snow lines the tops of the walls. A tower rises above the main gate, not impossibly high, but solid. Its upper section has a row of merlons, the notched battlement profile regular and purposeful. Snow has gathered in each merlon gap. Below the walls, the hillside is steep. There is a section where the natural rock has been cut and shaped, the mountain itself given a sharper edge to make the fortress harder to approach from below. You are approaching from the path side. The correct side. The intended side. The gate is visible now. You climb the final section of the approach. The trees have pulled back a little here, giving space around the walls. The wind is more present without them. It moves across the slope from the north, carrying a fine, dry scatter of snow crystals that tick softly against the stone. The gate is beneath the stone arch. The arch is not ornate. This is a military structure, built for defense, for endurance, for the practical reality of mountain life. But the arch is carefully made. Each stone is placed with intention. The keystone at the top is larger than the others, and darker, as though chosen specifically for that position. Above the arch, the tower watches the approach from behind its battlement teeth. A torch burns in a bracket near the gate. Its light is warm, a small, steady amber point against the pale gray of everything else. The flame moves in the wind, bending and straightening, never going out. It has been placed there to be seen from below. A signal that the gate is real. That someone is here. You reach the final steps. These are cut more deliberately than the path below, wider, more even. They were made to welcome arrivals through the right entrance. You climb them one by one. Each step sounds slightly different beneath you. The snow here has been walked on before. It is packed down in places, icy at the edges. Someone else came up this path before night deepened. You climb the last step. And you are before the gate. The arch rises over you. Standing beneath it, you feel the temperature change. The stone holds cold the way only stone can, and the enclosed space of the passage amplifies it. The walls of the passage are close on either side. 3 or 4 steps through, and you will be inside the outer gate. You stand for a moment in the archway. Behind you, the forest stretches down the mountain. From here, the slope you climbed is visible, the pale stone path winding down between the bare trees, disappearing into mist. Somewhere far below, invisible, the valley. The world you came from. You turn back to the gate. And you step through. The sound changes immediately. The wind disappears. The open-throated howl of the mountain slope is cut off as though a door has closed, and in a sense, one has. The stone walls around and above you absorb sound differently. Your own footsteps are closer, more present. You can hear them clearly now. A faint echo. Nothing else. You pass through the gate passage. It is longer than it appeared from outside, a deliberate feature. Thick walls. This was not built quickly. And then you emerge. The first courtyard opens around you. It is not large. Perhaps 20 steps across. But after the narrow passage it feels open, and the sky above, still that heavy gray-white of winter clouds, gives a sense of air. Snow covers the courtyard floor. It is undisturbed at the far end, near a low wall. But near the center, footprints cross it. Someone walked here not long ago, their steps leading from a doorway on the left to a passage on the right. The footprints are partially filled with new snow. An hour ago, perhaps. Maybe two. You look around. The walls rise on three sides. The inner gate ahead is heavier than the outer, a wooden door, iron-banded, currently standing half open. Light falls through the gap. Warm light. Fire somewhere inside. You cross the courtyard slowly. Your footsteps make a soft compression sound in the snow. Not a crunch exactly, more of a gentle collapse, each step leaving a clean print in the white surface. Snow has gathered in the angles of the walls. Where two walls meet in the corner to your right, a drift has built up half a meter deep, smooth and curved at its edge. A wooden beam projects from the wall above it, part of some old bracket or support, and a ridge of snow balances along its top surface, a finger-width deep, precise as if placed there with care. You pause at the inner gate. The wood of the door is dark. Heavy. The iron bands across it are black, wide, riveted at intervals. Where the door stands open, you can see the worn stone of the threshold below it. The stone is smooth in the center, polished by years of feet. How many feet, over how many winters, to polish stone like that? You step across it. The inner courtyard is larger. You did not expect it. From outside, the fortress looked compact, a tight collection of walls and towers on a rocky shoulder of the mountain. But inside, the space is deeper than it appeared. The courtyard stretches before you, its far wall some distance away, its floor a mix of stone paving and packed earth, now all covered with snow. A covered walkway runs along the left wall. Its wooden roof is low and slanted, designed to shed rain and snow. A line of snow has slid from the roof's edge and landed on the ground below it in a soft ridge. Under the walkway, the stone is bare. Dry. And a figure moves there, slowly, unhurried. A guard, perhaps, or a caretaker. A man in a heavy wool cloak, the color of dark earth. He is walking the length of the covered walkway, his hands behind his back. Not on alert. Simply walking. The way a person walks who has nowhere particular to be at this hour. He reaches the end of the walkway, turns, and walks back. He does not look at you. He is occupied with his own slow passage. You turn your attention to the rest of the courtyard. To your right, a stone staircase climbs the inner face of the wall. The stairs are wide at the bottom, narrowing as they rise. They do not have a railing, just the open edge of the step on one side and the wall on the other. Snow covers them halfway up. Above that, the higher stairs have been swept or are simply too exposed to hold snow. They are bare stone, dark with damp. At the top, a battlement walkway runs along the top of the wall. Through one of the Merlin gaps, you can see a slice of the outside world, the dark shapes of treetops below, half hidden in mist. You move toward the center of the courtyard. Beneath your feet, the snow gives way in places to the edges of paving stones. Wide, flat slabs of the same gray-brown stone as the walls, set into the courtyard floor. Between them, where the stones have settled unevenly, thin lines of compressed snow fill the gaps. Something drips. A steady, quiet drip. You look toward the sound. In the far left corner of the courtyard, beneath a small overhang of the upper wall, water is seeping through the stone and dripping onto a low ledge. Then from the ledge onto the ground. It has been doing this long enough that a small cone of ice has built up on the ledge, the water freezing as it gathers. The new drops fall onto the top of the ice cone. Some freeze. Some run off. It is a slow negotiation between water and cold. A small, patient process, happening without audience. You watch it for a moment. Then you look up. A second building stands at the far end of the courtyard. Not as tall as the towers, but longer. Its roof is a gentle slope, built low to resist the mountain weather. The walls are thick. You can see this even from here in the width of the window openings. The windows are narrow. Small. More like slits at some angles. Practical rather than decorative. But in one window, a warm light glows. Amber, flickering. Someone is inside. A lamp, or a small fire, or a brazier. Something burning, contained, warming a small interior space. You begin to walk toward it. As you cross the courtyard, you notice more of the small details of this place. A wooden barrel stands near the wall, iron hooped, its top sealed. A stack of cut timber sits against the wall beneath the covered walkway, the logs stacked neatly, their cut ends facing outward, pale and raw. A length of rope hangs from a hook in the wall, coiled but not tightly, draped rather than stored. These are the ordinary objects of a functioning place. Not decorations. Just things. A settlement on a mountain, in winter, preparing to last the night. You reach the far building. The door is set into a low arch. Not as grand as the gate arches, just a functional opening in the wall, slightly recessed, the stone above it spanning the gap without ceremony. The door itself is wood. Lighter than the iron-banded gate door. Plank construction, with a horizontal bar across the inside. It stands partially open, just as the inner gate did. Just enough to pass through. You lean forward and look inside. The room is long and low-ceilinged. Stone walls close together. The floor is the same packed earth you saw in the courtyard, but harder, compressed by long use. At the far end, a small fire burns in a hearth, not a grand fireplace, just an opening in the wall lined with stone, deep enough to contain the fire safely. 2 or 3 logs burn with an orange glow. The smoke rises and finds its way out through a low opening near the ceiling, a simple channel cut through the stone. The room smells of wood smoke and dried herbs. Something bundled and hung from a wooden peg near the hearth, a cluster of dried stems, their identity hard to make out in the dim light. The firelight is the main illumination. It moves. It touches the walls with warm color and then retreats, then touches again. The stone walls absorb the light and hold a faint warmth in their gray surface. 2 men sit near the hearth. They are not speaking. One leans against the wall with his eyes half closed, his arms crossed over his chest beneath his cloak. The other is working with his hands, mending something. You cannot see exactly what. Something fabric. He works by firelight, his fingers patient, pulling a length of thread and then pausing, then pulling again. Neither man notices you. Or perhaps they do, and simply have no reason to react. You are not unusual here. You are just someone else passing through a winter night. You step back from the doorway. You are not ready to go inside yet. The courtyard still has more of itself to show you. You turn and walk toward the stone staircase on the right wall. The wide steps at the bottom are broad enough that you can climb without feeling the exposure. Your hand touches the cold stone wall beside you. You climb slowly. Each step a little wetter than the last, the damp seeping up through the stone from the constant saturation of the hillside. Halfway up, the snow begins. The steps here were not swept, and the snow from earlier in the day has settled and firmed. Your feet make clean prints in it. Each step holds you briefly, and then you rise to the next. You reach the top of the staircase. The battlement walkway spreads in both directions. You stop and look outward through one of the Merlin gaps. The view opens. Far below, the Hyrcanian forest rolls away into the distance. From up here, the trees are visible only as a general dark mass, a texture of bare branches and occasional dark persistent foliage, disappearing quickly into the mist that fills the lower valleys. No separate trees. No individual forms. Just the forest, as a whole, a presence below the mountain. The sky above it is the same flat white-gray. The clouds are low. The horizon is unclear. Somewhere out there, the Caspian lowlands stretch toward the sea, but tonight that distance is entirely hidden. The world beyond this fortress is just mist and cloud. The wind is present up here. You feel it along your side, coming from the left, steady but not violent. It carries a fine cold moisture, not snow exactly, not rain. Just cold water in the air, moving fast enough to feel it on your face. You pull your cloak tighter. Or perhaps you simply feel the warmth of having it. The sensation of being dressed against the cold, up here on the wall, with the vast soft darkness of the forest below. You look along the battlement walkway. It curves slightly with the shape of the wall. At the next corner, a tower rises, its upper chamber sitting above the battlement level, its own narrow windows dark. Between you and the tower, the walkway is empty. Swept clear of snow by the wind mostly. Just occasional patches of white in the Merlin gaps and angles. You begin walking along the battlement walkway. Your steps are careful, the stone is damp, and the edges of the walkway are not guarded. To your left, the inner courtyard below. To your right, the outer slope, the drop to the hillside, the forest below. You keep to the center of the walkway. Each Merlin gap you pass offers a different slice of the outside world. The angle of the hillside. A section of the path you climbed. The dark mass of a large beech trunk close below the wall. Then nothing but mist. Then a glimpse of the lower valley, impossibly far and pale. You reach the tower. A low door opens into its base from the battlement walkway. The door is barely your height. You duck slightly and enter. The tower interior is circular. The walls curve around you. A stone staircase winds upward along the inside of the wall, each step a wedge shape, narrow at the center post, wide at the outer edge. The center column, a solid shaft of stone, anchors the staircase. Overhead, the staircase disappears into darkness. Underfoot, the stone is bare, swept dry. The tower is cold but still. No wind in here. You begin climbing the interior staircase. It is steep and winding. Your hand trails along the outer wall for reassurance. The curve is gentle, but the steps are narrow at the inner edge, and in the dim light caution serves better than confidence. The light at the bottom diminishes as you rise. Then a slit window appears in the outer wall, just a narrow vertical opening, but enough to let in a blade of pale gray light. The stone around it is raw. unfinished. Just the rock cut open to let light through. You pause here and look out. The angle is different from up here. You are looking across the top of the lower battlements now. The courtyard below is visible in full. The snow on the ground, the covered walkway, the stacked wood, the main building's low roof heavy with snow. A thin line of smoke rises from somewhere, the hearth inside, its smoke finding its way out and then drifting sideways in the wind. You continue upward. Another step. Another curve of the staircase. Another slit window, this one showing the outer slope, the steep approach you climbed, the trees now mostly invisible beneath the cloud. Just stone and snow. The mountain holding its breath. You reach the top of the staircase. A narrow opening leads out onto the top of the tower. You step through carefully. The tower roof is flat. Not large, maybe 6 steps across. A low parapet runs around the edge. Up here, the wind is stronger. It comes from multiple directions as it wraps around the tower's shape, edged and unpredictable. The clouds are very close. Lower than you expected. The mist that fills the valleys below has thickened while you climbed, and now the tower stands in and out of it, one moment clear, the next half dissolved in gray. You can see the rest of the fortress from here. The full shape of it. The main walls. The inner courtyard you entered. The lower gatehouse. The other towers in their positions along the walls. The whole structure fits to the mountain's contours, built into its angles and outcroppings, following the natural shape of the ridge rather than imposing a rigid geometry on it. It is, you think, a place that knows where it is. A fortress that belongs to this particular mountain, this particular climate, this particular reality of stone and fog and cold. Snow begins to fall. Not heavily. Just a few flakes, barely visible in the dim light, drifting past the parapet. They settle on the stone at your feet. Small. Light. You watch one land on the back of your hand. It stays for a moment, a 6-pointed shape, briefly perfect, and then it is gone. Just a small dark spot of water remaining. Then that too is absorbed. You stand on the tower roof for a few more moments. The snow continues to fall, lightly, without urgency. The forest below has fully disappeared into the mist. The valley is invisible. Above you, the clouds hold everything. You descend the tower staircase. The spiraling descent is easier than the climb, your hand on the wall, your feet finding the steps naturally. Down past the second slit window. Down past the first. Back to the battlement level. You step through the low door and back onto the walkway. The outer air hits you again, moving damp, cold. You walk back along the walkway toward the top of the courtyard staircase. From the battlement, you look down into the courtyard one more time. The man in the dark wool cloak is still making his slow passage along the covered walkway. Back and forth. Patient as the stones. You descend the courtyard staircase. Down through the snow. Down to the dry bottom steps. Your feet find the courtyard floor again. The snow receives your footsteps. You walk toward the central area of the courtyard, pausing near the wooden barrel, near the stacked timber. From somewhere deeper in the fortress, through the passage that leads further inward, you hear a sound. A low, soft sound. Something between a voice and a hum. Not music exactly, Perhaps someone speaking to themselves quietly in the way people do when they are working. Or perhaps singing, very softly, not for anyone to hear. The sound moves through the stone walls and arrives blurred and soft, with all its sharp edges worn away by the corridor it traveled through. You follow the sound. There is a passage at the back of the courtyard, half hidden by the angle of the wall. Not a grand entrance. Just an opening in the stone, wide enough for 2 people abreast, framed by lintel stones overhead. You step through it. The passage beyond is narrow and turns twice. The first turn takes you away from the courtyard. The second brings you to another opening, and through it, a different space. A lower courtyard. Or perhaps a work area. The ground here is flat and wide, sheltered on 3 sides by walls and on one side open to the mountain slope, but set far enough back from the edge that the exposure feels protected rather than vertiginous. A low stone bench runs along one wall. Wide enough to sit on, long enough to lay equipment or supplies. Above the bench, iron brackets are set into the wall. Some hold nothing. Some hold a wooden shaft, a tool handle. One holds a coil of rope, thicker than the rope in the courtyard, more serious. A young person crouches near the far wall, tending to something on the ground. As you move closer, you see what it is. A collection of small clay vessels sealed with fabric tied at the neck. The young person is checking them one by one, lifting each slightly, feeling its weight, setting it back carefully. They do not speak. They work with a kind of absorbed attention, the focus of someone who has been given a task and is completing it without distraction. A lamp sits on the stone bench behind them. A shallow clay dish with oil and a floating wick. The flame is small and very still. In this sheltered space, the wind does not reach it. It burns with an evenness that a lamp outdoors never achieves. A small, patient light. You stand near the entrance to this lower work area and look at the space for a moment. Then you look at the wall on your left. Someone has scratched something into the stone there. Not a formal inscription. Not something placed there for history. Just a mark, a small geometric pattern, maybe a few lines forming a simple angular design. The kind of thing a person makes when they have a sharp tool and a moment of stillness. The stone around it is undisturbed. The mark has been there long enough that the edge of each scratched line has softened slightly with moisture and time. You reach out and touch it. The scratched lines are shallow, but you can feel them. Just. The young person finishes checking the clay vessels. They stand. Brush their hands against their robe. Take the lamp from the bench. And walk past you without looking, back through the passage toward the inner courtyard. The oil lamp's flame sways as they pass. Then settles. Then the light is gone. The lower work area is darker now. Only the open side, facing the slope, gives light, pale, ambient, the dim gray light of a winter night sky reflected from snow. It is enough to see by. Barely. But enough. You walk to the open side of the work area and look out. The slope below the fortress falls sharply here. The cut stone face of the mountain is visible, that deliberate sharpening of the natural hillside, the intentional removal of footholds. Below it, the forest begins. The trees are close together. From up here, you can see more of their form than you could when you were among them. The way they lean away from the prevailing weather, their upper branches angled by years of wind. Beech and hornbeam, mainly, their smooth gray trunks visible even in this light. Snow on their upper branches. The lower trunks are bare, just their own gray-brown bark and the dark patches of old moss. Snowflakes are still falling. Still light. They drift across the open side of the work area, and some reach the floor inside and land on the stone. They stay for a moment, perfectly white, perfectly small, and then the stone's residual warmth absorbs them, and they are gone. You watch this happen several times. Then you turn back. The passage waits. The fortress waits. There is more inside. You return through the passage and into the main inner courtyard. The man in the dark cloak has stopped his walking. He stands at the far end of the covered walkway, leaning against the wall with his back to you, looking toward the inner gate. Or perhaps simply resting there. Thinking. Counting the hours of the watch. You cross the courtyard again, differently this time. Aiming for the staircase that leads up the far building's external face. You noticed it earlier, running along the wall to a second level. It is steep. Steeper than the courtyard staircase. The steps are narrower, designed for a single person moving carefully. You begin to climb. Halfway up you pause. From this height, the courtyard has a different feeling. The snow on the ground below is clean and even. The tracks you made crossing it are there, a line of footprints, your footprints, joining a few others in the white surface. The stacked wood is visible from above, the cut ends of the logs making a pale pattern against the wall. The barrel, round and solid. The covered walkway with its simple wooden posts. Everything below is clear and quiet. The torch near the outer gate is visible from here, a small ember point in the archway, still burning. Still marking the entrance to the world. You reach the upper level. A narrow external passage runs the length of the building here. Not open to the sky but partly covered by a stone overhang. It is like a corridor, but exterior. The wall on one side is the building's outer wall, solid and thick. The other side is open, or rather, is a low stone balustrade, knee-height, looking down into the courtyard. The passage is dry here. The stone overhang sheds the snow before it reaches the floor. You walk along it. Your footsteps have a different quality here, resonant against the stone in an enclosed way, contained by the overhang above and the walls on both sides. A door opens off the passage. Wooden. Low. A warm line of light at its threshold. You stop outside it. The light at the threshold is amber, firelight or lamplight, warm and still. You place your hand gently on the wood. It is smooth, worn at the center where hands have touched it many times. The wood is cold at the surface. But through the gap at the base, a thread of warm air touches your feet. Inside is warmth. You push the door open. A small chamber. The walls press in closer than the room below with the hearth. This space is intimate, a private kind of room. A single lamp burns on a shallow ledge cut into the stone wall. Beside the lamp, a bowl. A cup. Simple objects. The floor is covered with a woven mat, thick, deep-toned, its pattern geometric in the way of old woven things from this region. Earth tones. Rust and dark brown and a deep green, all faded from years of use. In the corner of the room, a low sleeping platform is built from the wall itself. Stone, covered with layers of fabric. Wool mostly. Folded and layered to create softness where the stone would otherwise be cold and hard. A pillow of some kind, rolled fabric or stuffed wool, at one end. The bed is made. No one sleeps here yet. The room is waiting. The lamp burns. The air is warmer here than anywhere you have been since entering the fortress. A small brazier, an iron vessel on legs, stands in the center of the room, its coals alive but low. Not burning hot. Just holding heat. You step fully inside. The door swings quietly behind you. The sound of the outside world reduces to almost nothing. No wind. No drip of water. No distant voices or movement. Just the soft sound of coals settling in the brazier. The small breath of the lamp. Your own quietness. You sit on the edge of the stone sleeping platform. The wool beneath you gives slightly. It is softer than you expected, layered enough that the stone below does not press through. The warmth of the room begins to reach you fully. The difference between the cold stone passageways outside and this sheltered space is total. Out there, the fortress is solid and damp and cold. In here, someone has made a small refuge. Not luxurious. Not elaborate. Just warm. Just quiet. Just enough. You look at the lamp. The flame is so still in here. The same small, round, alive light it was when you saw it from the passage. Its light reaches the walls and finds all the textures of the stone, small variations in the surface, mineral lines in the rock, the slight roughness of the mortar between blocks. The lamp makes the wall beautiful in a way that daylight probably does not. From somewhere in the fortress, below you, through walls and floor, a sound comes. Faint. The low, soft hum you heard before. Moving through the stone. Not louder. Not closer. Just present. The fortress going about its evening. Someone working. Someone resting. Someone marking the watch. The ordinary life of a mountain fortress in winter. You breathe. The warm air fills your chest. The brazier holds its glow. Outside these walls, the snow continues to fall, light and patient, settling on the battlements, on the courtyard, on the gate arch, on the path you climbed. The trees on the slope receive it without complaint. The mountain bears it easily. This place has held through many such nights. It will hold through this one. And you are inside it. You are within these walls. You are warm. You are still. The night around the fortress is quiet and dark and full of snow. And you are where you need to be. Sleep inside a snowy Persian castle, Roudkhan. Chapter 2, Within the Stone Walls. You do not stay long in the small chamber. The warmth holds you for a while. But eventually the rest of the fortress calls. There is more to see. More to move through. You rise from the sleeping platform. The wool beneath you settles back into its shape. The brazier holds its glow without you. The lamp burns on. You open the door. The external passage is cold again. The contrast is sharp. Warm room behind you, damp stone air ahead. You pull the door closed and stand for a moment in the passageway. The stone overhang above you cuts the sky to a narrow strip. Pale gray-white. Still full of cloud. Snow has begun to fall again, a little more steadily than before. Not heavy, but committed. You can hear it faintly, where it touches the stone parapet of the balustrade. A soft, continuous sound, like something being written. You walk the length of the external passage in the other direction this time, away from where you came. The passage ends at a short staircase descending into a recessed area of the fortress you have not yet entered. These stairs are narrower than the main courtyard staircase, more utilitarian. No ceremony in them, just function. You descend carefully, your hand on the wall. 5 steps. 6. And then a flat floor. This part of the fortress is tucked into a fold of the mountain. The ground here is lower than the main courtyard. The walls above rise on 3 sides, giving the space a sheltered feeling, less exposed to the wind, more contained. Snow has settled here undisturbed. No footprints but yours. The floor is a mix of stone and compressed earth, and the snow over it is level and clean. In the far corner, a wooden lean-to structure is built against the wall. Its roof is slanted timber, covered with a thick layer of packed material, earth and straw, it looks like, which now wears a heavy cap of snow. Underneath the lean-to, it is dry. You walk toward it. Under the lean-to, the smell changes. Hay. And beneath that, something warm and animal. 2 donkeys stand in the shelter. They are perfectly calm. One is eating from a pile of dried hay on the ground. The other simply stands, its head lowered, its eyes half closed. They are not startled by you. They barely acknowledge your presence. They exist entirely in the quiet animal world of warmth and hay and the particular patience of creatures who do not measure time. You stand near them for a moment. Their breathing is slow and audible. A steady rhythm. The eating donkey moves its jaw in long, unhurried sweeps. The hay rustles. The other's ear flicks once, some small sound on the wind, noted and dismissed. Then stillness again. The lean-to smells of the mountain even here, inside. Damp wood and hay and cold stone and the animal warmth underneath all of it. You leave them to their quiet and step back into the open space. A low wall runs along the far edge of this recessed area. Beyond it, the mountain slope drops away. You walk to the wall and look over. The hillside falls steeply. The trees begin just below. From here, they are very close, close enough to see individual branches. A hornbeam, its smooth, pale bark almost white in the winter light. Above it, another. Their branches are bare and intricate, a network of lines against the gray sky. Snow rests along the upper surface of each branch. A thick ridge of it on the horizontal branches. A thin line of it on the branches that angle upward. The snow clings where it has something to rest on. And where it does not, the vertical branches, the hanging twigs, it is absent. Just the dark wet wood. The snowfall thickens slightly. Not dramatically. Just a little more determined now. The flakes are larger than before, still gentle, still drifting. They fall through the branches of the hornbeam below and disappear into the darkness of the lower forest. A few reach the ground near the wall where you stand. You watch them land on the stone. Each one arrives differently, at different angles, with different speeds, none of them alike. You turn back to the recessed area. On the left wall, near the bottom of the staircase you descended, a wooden door is set into the stone. Low, iron hinged, dark with age. You did not notice it when you came down. You approach it. The hinges are large, hand-forged. Each one a slightly different shape, made by the same hand but not identically, the way all handmade things differ from one another in small ways. You push the door. It is heavy, but it moves. A deep, low groan from the hinges. And then it is open. A storage corridor. Long and low. The ceiling presses closer than in the rooms above. It runs back into the interior of the mountain, or rather, into the thick base of the fortress wall, which is built partly into the hillside. Along both walls, shelves are cut directly from the stone. Wide ledges. Some holding clay pots sealed. Some holding wooden crates, their lids in place. Some holding bundles of fabric or rope or dried plant material, wrapped and tied. The smell in here is different from everywhere else, dry, earthy, dense. The cold is present but less sharp. The stone absorbs cold differently here, protected from wind on all sides. You walk slowly along the corridor. The floor is stone, swept clean. Your footsteps echo close and tight in this low space. Each step sounds twice, once when it happens, and once a moment later, reflected back from the stone around you. You run your hand along one of the stone shelves. The surface is cold and slightly rough. The rock was cut here, not dressed smooth. The practicality is complete. What the shelf needs to do, it does. No more. One of the sealed clay pots has a crack along its shoulder. Old, healed by use, whatever was stored inside has sealed the crack from within, a dark stain spread around it. The crack is not recent. It happened long ago, and the pot was kept anyway. A note tied to a shelf peg beside it, fabric strip with something marked on it in ink. A character or a number, perhaps. You cannot read it in the dim light. But someone who works here can. At the far end of the storage corridor, a low archway leads to another space. You duck through it, and find yourself in a slightly wider room. Square, roughly. Higher ceiling than the corridor. In one corner, a stack of large clay vessels, sealed amphorae, their pointed bases resting in rings of twisted rope to keep them upright. In another corner, folded fabric. Heavy woolen pieces stacked with care. On a peg by the far wall, a lantern. Not lit. Just hanging there, ready for when it is needed. A set of stairs at the back of this room leads upward. The stairs are unfinished at the edges, raw stone, chipped and uneven. Service stairs. Not designed for visitors, but passable. You take them. Up through the stone. Up through the thickness of the wall. Up into the light. You emerge into a wide, open gallery. Or what passes for one in a mountain fortress. It is not like the external passage you walked earlier. This one is broader. Its inner wall is solid stone, the back of the main building. Its outer edge is a low parapet, waist-height, looking over a section of the fortress you have not seen from this angle. Below the parapet, a secondary courtyard. Smaller than the main inner courtyard. Paved with stone slabs, many of them cracked slightly, repaired with mortar at the joints. In the secondary courtyard below, 2 people are working. A fire burns in a low stone structure, a fire pit with a flat iron grate set over it. One person tends the fire, adding a piece of wood. adjusting something with an iron rod. The other person is working at a stone surface, a table, essentially, a flat slab set on two low supports. They are preparing something. Their movements are efficient, practiced. They have done this many times. The smell reaches you even from this height. Something warm. Grain or legumes cooked with smoke. A simple smell. Not delicate. Not refined. Just the smell of food being made in a cold place at night. The kind of smell that means someone thought ahead. Someone gathered things and stored them and now is using them. The ordinary continuity of a place that has kept itself alive. You lean on the parapet and watch. The firelight in the courtyard below moves. It touches the two figures warmly. It touches the walls around them, stone absorbing the light, glowing faintly orange for a moment. Then the fire shifts and the shadows return. The person tending the fire adds another piece of wood. A brief flare. A quick surge of light. Then settling. A steady brightness again. You remain here for a while. There is no hurry. The gallery is sheltered from the wind by the building wall behind you. The falling snow drifts past the outer parapet, but most of it clears the gallery floor. You are warm enough. The view below is peaceful. Simple. Real. Eventually you move on. The gallery continues along the building's length and turns a corner. You follow it. The corner brings you to a different perspective, now looking outward from the fortress rather than inward. Through the outer parapet here, the world beyond the walls is visible. The mountain slope. The forest. The valley below, invisible in cloud. The sky, that constant, soft, gray-white sheet of winter cloud, pressing low over everything. The snow is falling with more consistency now. Not heavy, but steady. You can see it clearly against the darkness of the forest below. White specks falling. Uneven in their drift, the wind catches them differently at different heights. Some fall nearly straight. Some angle sideways. A few travel almost horizontally before dropping. They reach the trees and the slope and the stone walls and the snow already on the ground, and they add themselves quietly to what was already there. You leave the gallery by a door on the inner side. It takes you into the upper level of the main building, a long room. Lower ceiling than the gallery outside. Warmer by far. 3 small windows on the outer wall, each one the height of 2 palms and the width of 1. Enough to let in light during the day. In winter, insufficient to let in much cold, the thick walls keep the depth of them from becoming direct channels for the wind. Along one wall, wooden pegs hold cloaks and garments. Dark wool. Heavy. Some hanging neatly. One draped carelessly, half off its peg, touching the floor. Beneath the pegs, a row of boots. Different sizes. Some still damp, dark around the foot where snow or moisture has worked in. They have been placed here to dry. In the center of the room, a long low table. Around it, floor cushions. Some arranged neatly. Some pulled to different positions, angled slightly, as though people sat here not long ago and then left without putting everything back. A wooden bowl in the center of the table. Empty now. A clay cup at the edge, tipped on its side. Not broken. Just leaning. You cross to the nearest window. You look out. The view from this height is the eastern face of the mountain. Trees. Snow on the trees. Mist below. A darker shape far down the slope. Large rocks, probably, or a section of the hill where the vegetation thins. From the window, the snow falling outside is very close. You could reach through and put your hand into it. You do not. But you feel it's cold from this distance. The air at the window is noticeably colder than the air in the center of the room. The fire somewhere below still pushes heat up through the stone. The room breathes both temperatures at once. You turn and notice a smaller door at the end of the room. Lower than the main entrance. Narrower. You walk to it. The latch is a simple wooden bar on a leather pivot. You lift it. The door opens to a small interior corridor. Short, just a few steps, and then another door at the end. A connecting passage. The fortress is full of these. Ways between spaces that are not quite rooms and not quite corridors. Transitions. Structural gaps between thick walls. You pass through this one. The door at the end opens to a staircase. Going down. Wide this one. Broad enough that two people could descend side by side without difficulty. The stone is dressed more carefully here, the walls smooth, the steps even. A section of the fortress where more care was taken. You descend slowly. Your footsteps are quiet on the smooth stone. No echo here, the wider space disperses the sound before it can return. Halfway down, a window on the left wall. Wider than the slit windows. Almost a proper opening. A wooden shutter is mounted at one side on iron pins. The shutter is pushed back, hooked against the wall. Through the opening, the main inner courtyard is visible. From this angle, midway down the staircase, you see the courtyard from a perspective you have not had before. The covered walkway below. The snow floor. The gate passage entrance at the far end. The torch still burning. Still steady. Still amber against the gray. You notice fresh footprints in the courtyard below. Someone has walked through it recently. The prints go from the covered walkway to the doorway of the main ground-level building. They are clean at the edges. Crisp. Made in the last few minutes. Whoever it was is inside now. The courtyard is empty. Just snow and stone and the distant torch. And silence. You continue down the staircase. Reach the ground level. A door on your left. The ground floor of the main building. A passage ahead, leading back toward the outer courtyard. You choose the passage. It is wider than the storage corridor below, and shorter. Just 6 or 8 steps long. Then a low archway, and through it, a space you have not entered yet. A working room. Different from the storage areas. This one is warm. A hearth on the left wall, similar to the one you saw through the doorway earlier, but this one is active. A real fire. Logs burning steadily. The heat from it reaches you the moment you step inside. At a table near the fire, a man works with leather. A piece of harness, perhaps, or a belt. He has a tool in his right hand, a thin awl, and is pressing it through the leather with controlled force. Pushing. Withdrawing. Moving a small distance. Pushing again. His concentration is total. He does not look up. The awl catches the firelight each time he withdraws it, a brief point of orange. Then it disappears into the leather again. On the wall above the table, tools hang from pegs. different sizes of all. A curved needle, a flat scraper, several lengths of thread wound around wooden sticks, small knives. Everything has its place. The man knows where everything is without looking. His hand goes to the wall and returns to the leather without his eyes leaving the work. You find a place to stand near the wall and watch. The fire on the hearth is generous. Its warmth fills the room, not just warmth, but a kind of solidity. The room feels certain of itself. It has a purpose. It is doing that purpose now. The leather worker, the fire, the tools, the heat. All of it functioning together. A small ecosystem of craft and warmth. After a while, the man finishes what he was doing. He sets the leather on the table, stretches his hands open and closed, reaches for a cup beside the table, drinks from it slowly. Then he looks up for the first time. Not at you. At the fire. His face is weathered. Not old. 40 perhaps. The kind of face that has spent many nights in cold places and then found its way back to the fire. He looks at the fire for a long moment. Then he sets the cup down, picks up the leather, and returns to work. You leave the working room quietly, back through the short passage, into the outer courtyard. The snow is thicker here on the ground now, the steady snowfall accumulating. The courtyard floor is smoother than before. The edges of footprints are softening, old tracks being covered. The night doing its slow work of erasure. You cross to the far side of the courtyard, near the outer gate. The torch in the gate arch is close now. You stand beneath it for a moment. The flame is at head height. You feel its warmth on your upturned face. A small sphere of warmth in the cold stone throat of the gate passage. The snow falls just beyond the arch. Inside the arch, you are sheltered. The torch flame moves in the draft between inside and outside, bending slightly inward, then straightening. A rhythmic motion. Slow. Almost like breathing. You look outward through the gate. The path down the mountain is white now. Snow has filled the spaces between the stones. The steps you climbed are still visible, their edges still defined, but smoothed, softened. The forest below is dark, dense. The individual trees have merged again into a general mass. Somewhere among them, the path continues down. Somewhere below, the valley. But from here, standing in the gate arch with the torch warm above you, all of that is another world. This world, the stone, the torch, the courtyards, the chambers, the people inside, this world is sufficient. You turn back. You walk away from the gate. Back into the inner courtyard. The covered walkway on the left is empty now, the man in the dark cloak gone inside somewhere. The stacked wood against the wall. The barrel. The courtyard familiar to you now. You know it. You have crossed it several times. Your own footprints from earlier are still there, partly filled, but legible. A sound from above. Footsteps on stone. Moving along the battlement walkway. You look up. A figure, moving steadily along the top of the wall. Another guard or watchman. They move with confidence. They know every step of this walkway. They do not look down. Their attention is outward. Toward the forest. Toward the slope. Toward the darkness beyond. They move to the corner. Pause. and then continue around and out of sight. You stand in the middle of the courtyard. Snowflakes fall around you. They touch your shoulders, your hair, the tops of your hands. They are so light, so briefly themselves before they join the snow already on the ground. You tilt your head back. The sky above is a dark, close, moving gray. The clouds shift in layers, pale where they are thinner, deep gray-blue where they stack. A faint light somewhere behind them, the moon, perhaps, hidden and diffused. No stars. No break in the cloud. Just the depth of a winter sky over a mountain fortress. You lower your head, and you notice a doorway you have not yet entered. In the left wall of the courtyard, not the covered walkway, but behind it, a recessed entrance, partially shadowed by the overhang. You walk toward it. The passage beyond is cool and dark for its first few steps. Then it opens. A small enclosed courtyard. Very small. 4 paces by 4 paces. Completely enclosed on all sides by walls. The sky above is a perfect rectangle of gray-white cloud. Snow falls straight down in here, no wind to angle it. It falls into this small space and lands silently on the stone floor. An accumulation of undisturbed snow. No footprints. No marks of any kind. This small courtyard serves no obvious purpose that you can immediately identify. It is simply there, a gap between walls. Perhaps it is for light, or air, or simply a consequence of the way the walls were positioned, leaving this small square of open sky. It feels private, not secret, just unseen. A place between places. You stand in the center of it. Snow falls around you, on you, straight and even. You feel the cold more here. The walls block the radiant warmth that the larger courtyards gather. But it is peaceful. Completely. The sounds of the fortress are muffled. The working room fire. The footsteps on the walkway. All of it at a distance. Here, just snow. Just a small gray rectangle of sky. Just you. You stand there longer than you might have expected. There is something about the complete enclosure. The way the world is reduced to this small square. The snow choosing to fall here even though no one is watching. Even though it makes no difference. It falls anyway. Eventually you move. You retrace your steps through the short passage. Back into the main courtyard. The larger world. The torch at the gate. The covered walkway. The familiar stone floor, snow-covered. You breathe out slowly. Your breath is visible. A small cloud. Drifting upward. Then gone. There is still the inner passage ahead. The one that leads further into the upper parts of the fortress. You have been to the towers. You have been to the secondary courtyard. But there is another direction. Deeper into the mountain face. Where the fortress meets the rock itself. You walk toward it. The passage is in the back wall of the inner courtyard. Not hidden. Just unassuming. A stone opening in the wall. A short passage. And then stairs going upward. These stairs are steep. Steeper than any you have climbed so far. They are cut directly into the rock in places, the hillside itself shaped into steps. Between them, sections of stone are laid. The boundary between natural rock and human craft is unclear in places. The fortress does not end and the mountain begin, they interpenetrate. You climb. Your knees feel the steepness. You lean forward slightly. The wall beside you is rock, raw mountain stone, cool and slightly damp. Not worked. Just the hill. And above it, beginning again, more cut stone. The fortress resuming. You emerge into a long, narrow chamber. A room made in the gap between two walls. Tall and thin. The ceiling is stone arched above you. A single lamp burns on a ledge at the far end. Its light reaches barely to the midpoint of the room. The rest is in shadow. You walk toward the lamp. The floor here is stone, perfectly flat. More carefully made than the floors below. The arched ceiling above is also carefully made, the stones of the arch fitted precisely. This room was made to last. To hold. To endure whatever the mountain winter did to the walls around it. Beside the lamp, a shallow stone shelf. On it, a folded piece of fabric, dark wool, carefully folded. A small clay vessel beside it. Sealed. These are not random objects. Someone placed them here deliberately. With care. Against some need. You look along the far wall. A narrow window slit, very high up near the ceiling. At this hour, deep into the night, it shows nothing but black. But through it, cold air enters. Just a thread of it. Enough to make the lamp flame lean slightly. A constant, gentle lean. The flame knowing the window is there even from this distance. You sit on the floor near the lamp. The stone is cold below you. But the lamp's warmth is close. Just enough. The room is quiet. The fortress sounds do not reach here. This is a depth you have not been at before. The mountain on all sides. The stone above and below. The lamp breathing. You rest your back against the wall. The stone finds the shape of your back. Cold at first. Then less so. The chamber is still. The lamp burns with its gentle, persistent quality. The window slit above is dark. Outside, the snow continues. The mountain continues. After a time, you rise. The lamp still burns. You leave the long, narrow chamber and descend the steep staircase. Down through the rock. Down through the transition between mountain and fortress. Back into the inner courtyard, quieter now. The snow on the ground is deeper. The falling flakes have been working steadily while you were inside. You cross the courtyard once more. Toward the covered walkway. Beneath the wooden roof, the ground is dry. The row of logs along the wall. The rope on the hook. You run your hand along the top log of the stack. The cut end is pale, nearly white. The wood recently split. A small curl of bark clings to the edge of one log, peeling away from the wood but not yet fallen. You leave it. From the covered walkway, you look out across the courtyard. The snow is falling in earnest now. No longer the spare, tentative flakes of earlier in the night. These are small, numerous, falling straight in the still air of the enclosed courtyard. They fall without wind. Directly down. Soft and silent. The torch at the gate continues to burn, its amber point undiminished. Chapter 3. The Quiet Life of the Fortress. The night has deepened. You feel it in the quality of the silence. Earlier, there were small sounds everywhere: footsteps, voices at a distance, the movement of people going about their evening. Now those sounds have thinned. The fortress is not empty, but it has quieted. The way a place quiets when most of its inhabitants have found their rest. You are back in the main inner courtyard. The snow on the ground is deeper than it was when you first arrived. A steady accumulation. The flakes still falling, unhurried, consistent. Your own footprints from earlier in the night are nearly gone. The snow has softened their edges, filled their depths. In another hour they will be invisible, the courtyard returning to its smooth white surface, as though you were never here. The torch at the gate still burns. This surprises you faintly. It has burned all this time without diminishing. Someone must have tended it. Or it is a good torch, made for a long night. Its flame is steady in the still courtyard air. The same amber point it has been all night. Faithful. You move toward the inner section of the fortress. The passage at the back of the courtyard, the one that leads to the steep rock-cut stairs, is ahead of you. But this time, you do not take the stairs. There is another passage branching to the left. You noticed it before without entering. Now you turn toward it. The passage is low-ceilinged, longer than the others. It runs along the inner face of the main curtain wall, parallel to it. The wall on your right is the back of the wall itself, thick, very thick. The wall on your left is the face of the interior building. Between them, this narrow way. A service passage. Not designed for comfort. Designed for movement. For getting from one part of the fortress to another without crossing the exposed courtyard in bad weather. The passage is dark. Only a faint ambient glow from the courtyard entrance behind you, fading as you move further in. Then, ahead, the warm yellow of a lamp, set in a niche in the wall. Just one lamp. Its light reaches perhaps 3 or 4 steps in each direction. Beyond that, shadow in both directions. You walk toward it. The lamp is a clay dish. Small, shallow, with a single wick of twisted fiber. The oil in it is nearly gone. The flame is lower than it should be. It has been burning for hours and no one has filled it. It still burns. Just a small, determined light. You pass it and continue. At the end of the passage, a wider space. A room connected to the passage at one end and through a low arch to a staircase at the other. This room has a different quality from the others. The walls are slightly smoother, more finished. Not rough-cut stone but dressed, worked, even. Someone spent more time on these walls. Not a great deal more, but enough to notice. In the center of the room, a low table. Wooden. Solid construction. Nothing on it now except a folded cloth and a single clay cup. Beside the table, a wooden stool. Just one. The cup is still dark on the inside from whatever it held recently. Not quite dry. Someone was here not long ago. You look at the arch on the far side of the room. Through it, the staircase. Not steep, this one. Wide and easy. Going up. You walk through the arch and begin to climb. The staircase rises in a gentle curve. Not a spiral exactly, more of a broad, sweeping ascent. The outer wall curves with the shape of the hillside. The inner wall is straight. Between them, the steps. wide enough that you could walk up carrying something large. A chest. A sack of grain. Designed for the carrying of things. Light grows above you. Not bright, but more than the dark of the passage below. A warm, amber quality. Fire. You climb toward it. The staircase opens into a long room. High in the fortress. Higher than anything you have been before in the main building. The ceiling here is arched, proper stone arches, repeating. 3 of them spanning the width of the room. Between each arch, the ceiling is flat stone. The arches were built to carry the weight of whatever is above. A practical elegance. Structure doing its job beautifully. Along the left wall, a series of small recesses. Not quite niches. Deeper than niches. More like shallow alcoves, each one large enough for a person to sit in, or to store a few things. Most are empty. In one, a folded blanket. In another, a small clay lamp burning steadily. In a third, a wooden box closed. The right side of the room is different. A long hearth. Not one fireplace. A continuous stone trough running the length of the wall, perhaps 5 steps long. Low. Wide. At several points along its length, small fires burn. Not large fires, controlled, deliberate. The kind made for heat rather than light. The kind a cook uses, or a craftsman who needs steady warmth. From this angle, you can see how the snowflakes behave near the torch. As they approach the warmth, they vanish. Not melted visibly. Just gone. The warmth consuming them before they can touch the flame. You move to the end of the covered walkway. A door here, wooden, low, set into the corner where the walkway meets the back wall. You try it. It opens. Inside, a corridor leading toward the base of the main gate tower. Not the battlement walkway you visited earlier. This is the interior base of the tower. The walls here are very thick. You can feel it in the proportions of the space. The ceiling is not high, but the walls to either side are wide enough that the corridor feels like a channel through solid stone rather than a room. A single lamp in a wall bracket halfway along. Its light reaches both ends of the corridor without illuminating either very well. The middle of the corridor is the brightest point. Both ends dissolve into shadow. You walk toward the tower base. The corridor ends at a low, heavy door. Heavier than any you have touched tonight. Iron banded, with a large iron bolt across it. The bolt is drawn back. The door is not locked. You push. The door resists, weight not latching. You push with more intention. It swings slowly, with a sound low in its hinges. Inside the tower base. A square room. No lamp. No fire. But not entirely dark. A slit window high in one wall lets in the ambient light of the snow outside. A reflected, diffuse, colorless light. Enough to see shapes. The room is a storage space. Or was. Now it holds several large wooden chests. They are closed and latched. Their wood is dark, old. Iron reinforcement at the corners. The kind of chests made to hold important things. Documents, perhaps. Or items of value. Or simply things too important to leave in the open storage corridor below. Along one wall, an iron ring is fixed into the stone. Heavy. Welded to an iron plate mortared into the wall. A long chain hangs from it, coiled at the floor. The chain is old, some links are darker than others stained. It lies in a quiet heap, serving no current purpose. Just waiting. The way all chains wait. You stand in the center of the tower base room. The darkness around you is not threatening, just the absence of fire. The slit window gives enough, pale rectangles of light on the floor. The wooden chests sitting in their solid patience. You breathe. The air in here is cold but not damp. Drier than the corridors. The tower's thick walls and the height of the room keep moisture from settling. You leave the tower base. You pull the heavy door back into place. Its weight settles with a low thud. Back along the corridor. Past the lamp and its bracket. Out through the door at the end. Back into the covered walkway. The cold of the courtyard welcomes you again. Snow still falling. Still patient. You stand in the covered walkway for a moment, looking across the courtyard at the gate. The torch. The snow accumulating in the arch. The world outside, the forest, the slope, the path, all of it slowly becoming more white, less distinct. The night wearing its snow like something natural. Something it has worn before. Many times. In many winters. On this same mountain. Above this same fortress. A sound. Footsteps. Descending the courtyard staircase. The guard who was on the battlement walkway. Coming down for the night. Or coming down to be replaced. He reaches the bottom of the stairs and crosses the courtyard without hurrying. His boots make clean prints in the new snow. He reaches the covered walkway. Passes you, close, almost shoulder to shoulder. He glances at you briefly. A nod. Brief, unhurried, without particular meaning. Then he continues. Into the door at the end of the walkway. And the courtyard is empty again. You look at his footprints. Fresh ones over older ones. The courtyard is a palimpsest of movement. Layer over layer. The night's passage written in snow. You add your own footsteps to it, crossing toward the far end of the courtyard, toward the passage that leads deeper in. One more set of prints. One more crossing. One more small record of a winter night inside Roudkhan. The passage waits. The fortress continues. Stone on all sides. Fire somewhere. Snow above. Mountain below. And you, moving quietly through all of it. Not leaving anything behind. Not disturbing anything. Just present. Just moving. Just here. The smoke from all of them rises and finds a series of narrow channels in the ceiling. Deliberate openings built to carry the smoke out without filling the room. It works. The room smells of wood smoke. But only faintly. The smoke is managed. The air is breathable. Warm. The warmest space you have entered in the fortress. 3 people are here. Near the far end of the long hearth, an older woman sits on a low wooden bench. She is spinning. Her spindle drops and rises, turning with a smooth rhythm. The thread she makes is fine and even. She works by firelight, and the firelight is enough. She has been doing this for so long that her hands need no light. They know the motion by themselves. Beside her, a younger woman. Not spinning. Folding. She is working through a pile of finished fabric, dark, heavy wool, folding each piece precisely and placing it in a growing stack. Her movements are economical. No wasted motion. Just the fold, the smooth down, the place, the next piece. Fold. Smooth. Place. Fold. Smooth. Place. Near the center of the long hearth, a man tends the fires. Not keeping them large, keeping them even. He moves from one section to the next, adjusting a log, closing down a gap, adding a small piece of fuel. He works quietly, checking each point of the long hearth in turn and then returning to the beginning. A circuit. Patient. Repetitive. The kind of work that holds the warmth of a place through the long hours of a winter night. None of them look at you. Or if they do, they return to their work without comment. You are not unexpected. You are simply someone else in a place where people move through the night for different reasons. You find a place to stand near the wall. Warm. Truly warm. The heat from the long hearth reaches you fully. You feel it on your face, your hands. The contrast with the cold stone passageways below is complete. Out there, the mountain, the snow, the dark. In here, the fires, the spinning woman, the folding, the even movement of the man tending the hearth. The quiet industry of people doing necessary things at the deep part of the night. You watch the spinner for a while. The spindle drops. The twist travels up the thread. She draws a little more fiber from the mass in her lap. The spindle drops again. There is something hypnotic in the rhythm. The thread grows, slowly, continuously. A thing made from something shapeless. Order from disorder. One small twist at a time. The younger woman finishes folding. She lifts the stack of fabric with both arms. It is heavy. She bends her knees, adjusts the weight. Then she carries it to one of the deep alcoves in the left wall and places it inside. She steps back and straightens. Looks at the alcove for a moment. Then she returns for the next task. A fresh pile of unfolded cloth waiting nearby. You step away from the wall. You walk to the long hearth and stop a few paces from it. The warmth is more intense here. The 3 small fires are burning with orange and yellow. Dry wood, it burns cleaner than wet wood. Less smoke. Hotter. The man tending it glances at you as he moves past. He nods. Continues his circuit. The stone of the hearth trough is black at the bottom from years of fire. Not the black of soot exactly, something deeper. The stone itself has been changed by heat, over and over, season after season. It has absorbed the fire. Become part of it. The black is in the stone now, not on it. You move away from the hearth. Toward the alcoves. You look into the one with the folded blanket. The blanket is thick. Wool, woven in a geometric pattern, small angular shapes repeating across the surface. The colors are faded, but you can still make them out in the firelight. A deep red-brown, dark blue, and off-white. It has been folded many times and the fold lines are permanent in the fabric now, the wool compressed along each crease. You step to the next alcove. The small lamp there burns with a stillness that surprises you. Even here, with the warmth of the hearth causing small movements in the air, the lamp's flame is nearly still. The alcove shelters it from all sides. A private atmosphere for a private flame. It will burn until it runs out of oil. And then it will stop. and the alcove will be dark until someone refills it. From outside, muffled by the thick walls but present, the sound of the wind. It has picked up. More than it was earlier. You hear it not directly but as a pressure on the stone. The walls carrying the sound of it. The mountain weather doing what it does. And the fortress holding against it. As it was made to do. As it has always done. You leave the long room by the staircase. Descend. Back to the curved room at the bottom. The cup on the table. The cloth. The empty stool. You pass through and back into the long service passage. Past the nearly empty lamp. Still burning. Still just. Out into the courtyard. The snow has changed. Driven now slightly. The wind that you heard through the walls is here in the courtyard, crossing it at an angle. The flakes do not fall straight anymore. They angle from the northwest. They catch the torch's light as they pass it, brief orange sparks in the amber glow, and then they are gone. You turn your face into the wind for a moment. It is not violent, but it is present. Cold and insistent. It carries the smell of the mountain, wet stone, wet wood, the cold that lives in forests when snow falls through them. You breathe it in. Then you turn away. Back toward shelter. The door of the main ground level room is ahead. The one you looked into earlier, the room with the hearth and the two men. Now as you approach it, the door is fully open. Light spills out into the courtyard. A wide, warm rectangle of it on the snow. You step inside. The room has changed since you last looked in. More people now. 4, perhaps 5, in the warm space. The two who were here before, the sleeping man and the leatherworker, are still present. The sleeping man has fully surrendered to it now, his head on his arm, his breathing slow and visible. The leatherworker has stopped working. He is talking, quietly, to another man who sits across from him. Their voices are low, not whispering, but considering the hour. A thoughtful kind of conversation. Near the hearth, someone is heating something in a clay vessel. A small vessel, sitting at the edge of the fire on a flat stone. Steam rises from it. The smell is warm and slightly herbal, something dried and steeped. An infusion of some kind. The person watching it is young. They have a cloth folded in their hand, ready to use as a grip when the vessel needs to be moved. They watch the steam patiently. You move to the side of the room and find a place near the wall. The stone behind you is warm from the fire. It has been radiating heat all evening and the warmth has worked its way deep into the mass of the wall. It presses warmth gently against your back. The conversation between the two men continues. You cannot make out the words. They speak quietly, and the sound of the fire fills the space between you and them. But the rhythm of it is clear. One speaks for a while. The other listens. Then the first finishes. A pause. The second responds. Then the first listens. They are not arguing. Not planning. Not solving anything urgent. Just talking. The way people talk when the work is done and the fire is going and the night is long. The young person near the hearth lifts the clay vessel carefully. The cloth grips it. They pour into 2 cups, not rushing, letting the liquid fall slowly. They carry 1 cup to the talking men. Set it on the floor beside one of them. He acknowledges it with a small gesture. They carry the second cup to the other man. Then they return to the fire. Pour a third cup for themselves. Sit down. And wrap both hands around it. The warmth of the room settles around you. The sleeping man breathes. The two men talk. The fire moves. Outside, the wind presses against the fortress walls. The snow falls. The mountain holds the night in its hands. You breathe. Slowly. The warmth has reached you fully. Your shoulders are lower than they were. Your hands loose at your sides. The stone behind you gives its warmth steadily. After a time, you leave the room. Not because anything pulls you away from it. Just because the night is not finished yet. There are still parts of this place you have not seen. The courtyard is colder now. The wind makes itself known more clearly. You walk across it quickly, not running but purposefully. To the covered walkway. The shelter of the low wooden roof. Under the walkway, the wind is cut. Not eliminated, it finds its way around the edges, but reduced. You stand in the relative stillness of it, looking out at the courtyard. The snow blows across the open ground in low, fast waves. A swirl near the barrel. A drift forming against the base of the outer wall. The footprints in the courtyard, all the footprints from all the hours of the night, are being erased now. The wind pushing snow into them, leveling them. The courtyard will be completely smooth by morning. You look up at the battlement walkway above. A figure moving there, the replacement watchman. Or the same one, still at it. They move steadily. Head down against the wind. Cloak pressed against their body by it. They continue their circuit without slowing. You move along the covered walkway. To the door at the end. Into the corridor that leads to the gate tower interior. But instead of entering the tower, you take a different door, one on the left side of the corridor you did not try before. A small room. Not for sleeping. Not for working. Just a room. A pause in the fortress. Stone on all sides. A window, this one larger than most, not defensive, just a window. No shutter. Just open to the night. The wind comes through it steadily. Through the window, the view is northward. Toward the upper mountain. The hillside above the fortress rises steeply. Trees up there too, the forest continues above as it does below. But from this window, you see the slope at close range. The snow on it is deep. The trees visible, beech mainly, their pale trunks blue-gray in the reflected light of the snowfall. Their branches bent slightly under the weight of snow. Not dramatically bent. Just weighted. Bowing slightly. The patient posture of trees in winter. You stand at the window for a while. The wind moves your hair. Pushes against your face. The cold is more intense here than in the sheltered spaces. But from this window you can see the mountain clearly. The upper slope. The dark mass of the forest. The snow on everything. The clouds still moving overhead, pressed low, fast moving in the upper air even if the wind at ground level is only a steady push. Somewhere in the forest above, something moves. You think you see it, just movement. A shift among the trees. Something large. Or the wind moving a branch. Or the shadow of a cloud crossing the snow. You watch. The forest is still again. Whatever it was, it is gone. Or perhaps it was never there. The night plays its games with perception. The eye seeks movement in stillness and finds it, sometimes, in nothing at all. You leave the window room, back into the corridor. And then, through a door you find at the corridor's end, into a larger interior space. One you have not been in before. A storage hall. Long and wide. Much larger than the storage corridor below. The ceiling is high. The walls are lined on both sides with wooden shelving, built frames, supported by stone ledges built into the wall, planks laid across them. The shelving is deep. Full. Sacks. Baskets with woven lids. More clay vessels. Wooden boxes. Rolls of fabric. Coils of rope. Bundles of dried plant material, thick stems bound with twine. This is where the fortress keeps itself alive. Not the individual rooms with their lamps and fires. This room. This accumulation. Months of preparation. Grain and dried things and fabric and rope and tools. The mountain winter requires it. There is no going down easily when the snow is deep and the path is ice. The fortress holds what it needs inside itself. It is sufficient. It knows how to last. You walk slowly between the shelves. The smell here is layered. Grain, dusty, dry, slightly sweet. Dried herbs, green and sharp under the sweet. Rope, hemp earthy. Wood, the shelving, the boxes, the smell of cut timber slowly drying. It is not a rich smell. Not perfumed. It is the smell of stored necessity. Everything that keeps people going through a winter on a mountain. You pause at a basket. Its woven lid fits closely. You lift the lid and look inside. Dried beans. Dark, small, hard. They rattle faintly as you tilt the basket slightly. There are enough to fill the basket almost to the top. You replace the lid carefully. Further along the shelving, a section devoted to tools. Handled tools, their heads wrapped in cloth to protect them from the moisture. Long handles laid along the shelf. Short handles upright in a wooden rack. Maintenance tools, mostly. The kind needed to keep a stone fortress functioning. To repair a joint. To clear a drain. To fix a bracket. Not weapons. Just work. At the far end of the storage hall, a small door. Low in the wall. You open it and find a continuation of the storage space. A smaller room, connected, holding a different category of things. Water vessels. Large clay jars sealed. Enough of them to last through a siege or a long snowfall. The jars are arranged in rows. Their surfaces are cool to the touch. The water inside must be the same temperature as the stone. Cold water. Clear. Stored. Patient. You close the door. You return through the storage hall. Back to the corridor. And then, from the corridor, you find a way back to the inner courtyard. The wind has not decreased. The snow continues to be driven sideways across the open space. You cross quickly. The staircase in the corner of the courtyard. The one that climbs the inner face of the wall. You have used it before. Now you climb it again. Up through the snow on the lower steps. Up through the swept upper section. To the battlement walkway. The wind is stronger up here. It arrives without warning, a gust that pushes you sideways, briefly. You brace. It passes. Then the steady, lower wind returns. The merlins give partial shelter. You step into the gap between two of them and look outward. The view is extraordinary in a muted way. No drama. No colors. Just the winter landscape, active now, alive with weather. The forest below is moving. The trees shifting in the wind. Their branches not swaying hugely. The bare trees have little to catch, but moving. A collective restlessness. The forest breathing in the wind. The snow on the branches loosening. Some of it falling as small cascades. A branch springs up as the weight leaves it. Another branch catches a gust and drops its ridge of snow. All across the visible forest, this small continuous movement. The trees rebalancing. The clouds are lower now. Moving faster. The mist from the valley has climbed the mountain in the wind and now sits around the fortress itself. Not as dense as fog, more like a very fine spray of cold moisture. It blurs the edges of the forest below. It softens the profile of the far ridgeline. The fortress sits in it, inside it, the stone walls beaded with fine moisture. You turn and look inward. The courtyard below. The covered walkway. The door of the main room, closed now. The torch at the gate, still burning, though its flame is working hard against the wind now, bending and straightening, throwing its light differently than before. More restless. More alive. But still there. The other watchman is ahead of you on the walkway. He has paused at the tower corner, his back to the wind. He glances at you. Then back at the night. He says nothing. There is nothing to say. The night is doing what nights do. The fortress is doing what it was made to do. And both of them, the watchman and the fortress, are simply in it together. You walk back along the battlement toward the courtyard staircase. The wind follows you. Or rather, you move through it. It does not follow. It simply is. The wind does not know you are here. It passes over the fortress the way it has passed over it for generations. Before you arrived. After you are gone. You descend the staircase. One step at a time. Down through the wind. Down through the snow. Down to the courtyard floor. And here you stop. In the middle of the courtyard. The snow falls around you. Driven, but not violent. Just persistent. The cold is complete. And yet you are not uncomfortable. You are part of this night. You belong here, in this moment, as much as the torch belongs here. As much as the watchman belongs here. As much as the sleeping man inside by the fire. Each of you in your own place. Each of you held by the same fortress. The same mountain. The same winter. You walk toward the inner passage. The steep stairs. The deep part of the fortress. The passage is familiar now. You know its length. Its turn. The way the sound changes as you move through it. You walk it without hesitation. Through to the steep stairs. And you begin to climb. This time, the climb feels different. Not harder. Just more interior. You are aware of the mountain on all sides. The stone that was once a hillside shaped into something purposeful. Your hand on the wall feels not just stone but time. The accumulated weight of seasons that have passed through this place. The many hands that have touched this same surface. You emerge into the long, narrow chamber you found earlier. The lamp is still burning. Still on the ledge at the far end. Still patient. It has not run out. Either someone refilled it while you were elsewhere in the fortress, or it had more oil than it appeared to. Either way, it burns. You walk to it. The flame is small and round. In the enclosed stillness of this chamber, it burns more steadily than anything you have seen tonight. No draft reaches it here. No shift in the air. Just the lamp doing its work, converting oil to light. An ancient equation. Simple and exact. You sit on the floor, closer to the lamp than before. Its warmth on your face is minimal. A lamp this small cannot heat a room, but it warms the air immediately in front of it. And you are in that small, warm circle. The chamber is long in both directions. To your right, the way you entered. To your left, the far end, shadowed, darker than the lamp's light can reach. You have not explored that direction. You rise and walk toward it. The far end of the chamber is not a dead end. There is an opening. Not a door, just an absence of wall. An archway, low and narrow. You duck through it. A short connecting passage. 3 or 4 steps. And then another room. Similar proportions to the narrow chamber but wider. This one has 2 windows, slit windows, one on each of 2 walls. Through them, the wind outside is audible. Not loud, but present. A low resonance in the stone as the wind presses against the fortress wall. In this room, a sleeping mat is laid on the floor, against the far wall. Not in an alcove, not on a raised platform. Just on the floor, directly. Covered with wool blankets, heavy, folded over, practical. The blankets are inhabited. Someone sleeps here. Turned away from the room, face toward the wall. Breathing slowly. You stop. You do not move further into the room. You stay near the archway. The sleeper does not stir. Their breathing is deep and regular. The sleep of someone who has worked and is now resting. Completely, entirely resting. The way only genuine tiredness allows. One arm is visible above the blanket. A hand, fingers slightly curled. Relaxed. The hand of a person who is holding nothing. Needing nothing. Just present in their sleep. You retreat through the archway. Back into the narrow chamber. The lamp still burning. You do not disturb its light. You sit beside it for a while. The chamber is very quiet. The wind reaches here as sound only, a distant pressure, not a physical presence. The lamp flame does not know the wind exists. It burns as though the world beyond this room is irrelevant. In this room it is. This room is only itself. Only the stone, the lamp, and the quiet. You find yourself thinking of nothing in particular. Images come and go. The courtyard. The torch in the gate arch. The spinner and her falling spindle. The man tending the long hearth. The 2 donkeys in their shelter. The young person with the lamp among the clay vessels. The sleeping form in the next room. The watchman on the battlement, walking against the wind. All of them in their places. All of them part of the same night. The same fortress. The same mountain holding them. The lamp flame dips. Just once. Some tiny movement in the air. Then it straightens again. As though it corrected itself. You rise. Your back is stiff from the stone floor. You stretch your arms. The ceiling of the narrow chamber is close above you, you could touch it. The stone is cold where your fingers brush it. You lower your hands. You walk back to the entrance of the narrow chamber. Down the steep stairs. Rock under your feet. The mountain itself. Down through the passage. Back into the courtyard. The wind has lessened. While you were inside, the weather shifted slightly. The driven snow has calmed. The flakes fall more nearly straight again. The courtyard is quieter. The torch at the gate burns with less effort. Its flame is upright. Steady. You stand in the center of the courtyard. Snow falls on your shoulders. On your hair. On the backs of your hands. The whole fortress is around you. The walls. The towers. The covered walkway. The doors leading to fires and sleeping people and stored provisions and quiet chambers. You tilt your head back. The snow falls toward you. Each flake a point of pale gray in the dim light, becoming white as it approaches. You watch them come. Coming from the clouds, from the dark, from the moving sky. Each one its own path. Its own brief, falling existence. You lower your head. You breathe the cold air. It fills your chest. Cold and clean. The air of a mountain night in winter. The air of the Hyrcanian highlands. The air that has moved through these same trees for longer than the fortress has stood. It is late. You feel this. Not in any dramatic way. Just in the quality of the quiet. The deep, settled quality that only comes after midnight. When the world has fully surrendered to the dark. When the fires have burned lower. When the voices have stopped. When the only sounds are the snow and the wind and the patient, indefinite sounds of a sleeping place. The fortress sleeps around you. Most of it. The watchman still moves on the battlement. The fire in the long room upstairs still burns. The torch still holds its position at the gate. These things remain. But the general life of the place has withdrawn inward. Into sleep. Into the deep, necessary rest of bodies that work through the day and now do not. You walk slowly toward the intersection of the fortress. One more direction. One more door. The night still holds a little more of itself in reserve. And you are still moving through it. Quietly. Without weight. Just here. Chapter 4. The Last Winter Hours. You move deeper into the fortress. Through the inner passage. Past the familiar turn. To the steep stairs. But this time you do not stop at the narrow chamber. You continue. There is a door at the top of the stairs you have not tried. A door set into the rock itself, where the mountain and the fortress become one thing. You find it now. Heavy wood iron banded. You push. It gives. A staircase on the other side. Going up. Not cut from rock this time, built. Stone steps, carefully laid. Rising inside the thickness of the upper wall. The staircase is dark. Your hand on the wall. One step. Then another. The stone close on all sides. A faint light above. Pale. The cold quality of reflected snow rather than fire. You climb toward it. You emerge onto an upper terrace. A wide, open platform near the highest section of the fortress. The wall rises another 2 meters above you on one side. On the other sides, the battlements step down. The terrace is large, perhaps 15 steps across. Flat stone. Snow covering it deeply here, no overhang to shelter it, no walkway roof. Just the open sky and whatever falls from it. The snow on the terrace is undisturbed. No footprints. You are the first person here tonight. You stop. And you feel the full openness of this place. The fortress is below you. The mountain is below the fortress. The forest is below the mountain. And the sky is close. Very close. The clouds press low, moving fast above you. Not violent, just continuous. A dark, layered, moving ceiling. The wind up here is different from the courtyard wind. Not stronger exactly, but more present. It has nothing to deflect it. It moves across the terrace with a directness that the sheltered spaces below do not allow. You feel it against your whole body. Not unkind. Just honest. This is what the mountain air is up here. This is what the watchmen endure each night. You walk to the battlement edge. Look outward. The valley below is invisible in cloud and dark. The forest immediately below the fortress is visible, or its upper part is. The trees moving in the wind. A collective, slow motion. The crowns of the beech trees bare and intricate, swaying slightly, sending small cascades of snow from their branches. The snow caught by the wind dispersed. Not falling straight, angled, distributed, becoming part of the air itself. Behind you, the main building of the fortress. Its roof below the level of the terrace wall. Smoke from the long hearth rising and then immediately torn sideways by the wind. Not a column of smoke. Just a breath, immediately scattered. The fire inside working to hold its warmth against the night. You turn and look upward. The clouds are very close. In places, the mist from below has joined the clouds from above. The fortress is inside the cloud, almost. Not fully. But almost. The darkness above is moving, breathing. Occasionally a slightly lighter patch, the cloud thinning for a moment, before thickening again. No stars. No break. Just the living dark of a winter sky over a mountain. You stand on the terrace. Snow accumulates on your shoulders. On the top of your head. The cold is complete up here. But you are not suffering. You are simply in it. The cold is just another part of this place. The walls, the snow, the wind, the dark, the cold. All of it belonging together. All of it this fortress, this night, this mountain. After a while, you turn away from the edge. You look at the upper wall, the section that rises above the terrace. A narrow staircase runs up its face. Exposed. No cover. Leading to the very highest point of this part of the fortress. A small platform at the top. A single merlin at its center. A place for one person to stand and see everything. You climb it. The steps are steep and wet. Snow on every one. You go carefully. Hand on the wall. Foot placed squarely before the weight follows. Step by step. At the top. The highest point. The platform is barely large enough for two people. The single merlin rises in front of you like a stone tooth. You step behind it. It shelters you from the wind's full force. Not entirely. But enough. From here, the fortress is spread below you. The terrace you just left. the main building's roof. The inner courtyard, the torch still burning, tiny from this height, a warm point of amber. The covered walkway. The stacked wood. The outer courtyard. The gate. The path descending into the forest. All of it. The whole shape of this place. The forest rolls away in all directions below. An ocean of bare branches and dark evergreen. The beach and hornbeam pale in the reflected light. Snow on every horizontal surface. The mountain continuing below the fortress for a long way before the valley begins. The sky above is moving. Always moving. The clouds rolling from the north, from the Caspian direction, carrying moisture and cold and the particular heaviness of a winter that has not reached its end yet. There is still more winter to come. More snow. More nights like this one. The fortress knows it. The mountain knows it. The trees know it. They have all been here before. You stand at the highest point. The wind presses against you. The single merlin holds some of it back. You look at everything below you and feel, for a moment, the full size of the night. How large it is. How old. How indifferent to the small warmths burning in the chambers below. And yet how those warmths persist. The torch. The fires. The lamps. Burning in the dark because people chose to keep them burning. Because people are here, inside those walls, making the small decisions that keep a place alive. You descend. Carefully. Down the steep exposed steps. Back to the terrace. You pause on the terrace before going inside. The wind here is steady. Not diminishing. But you have adjusted to it. The cold of it is simply part of where you are. You walk to the far corner of the terrace where the wall gives a little more shelter. In that corner, the snow is slightly less deep. The wind scours it here, pushing it toward the other end of the platform. Bare stone is visible at the very corner. Just a small patch. Dark gray and glistening with frozen moisture. From this corner, you can see along the roofline of the main building below. The slope of it. Snow deep on the roof tiles. At the edge, where the roof ends, a long overhang of ice has formed. Icicles. Not dramatic ones. Just a quiet, patient work of water that dripped and froze and dripped and froze through the course of the day. Each one a slightly different length. The longest perhaps a hand span. They hang in a row from the roof edge. In the ambient light of the snowfall, they are faintly visible. White clear, slightly blue. The wind lifts slightly. One of the icicles, narrower than the others, releases. Falls. Strikes the stone below with a small, sharp sound. Breaks. Gone. The others remain. You watch the remaining icicles for a moment. Then you turn away. Through the door. Down the built staircase inside the wall. Down past the narrow chamber. Down the rock-cut stairs. Through the passage. Back into the inner courtyard. The torch is unchanged. The courtyard is unchanged. The snow is deeper. That is all that has changed. The night accumulating itself quietly while you were above it. You stand in the courtyard for a time. There is a stillness now that was not present earlier in the night. The wind has found its rhythm. Steady, predictable. No gusts. No sudden shifts. Just the constant, low press of cold air from the north. The snow angled by it. consistent. The covered walkway is empty. The man in the dark cloak left it hours ago. Now the walkway is just wood and shadow. The row of stacked logs. The rope on its hook. The barrel. Still as they have been all night. You walk to the stacked wood and place your hand on the topmost log. The wood is cold. Not the same cold as stone. A different texture of cold. The cold of something that was once living. That still remembers, in some deep way, what it was. The grain of it under your fingers. Fine and close-set, hardwood. Probably hornbeam. Dense and heavy and long-burning. Good wood for a long winter night. You leave the log and walk toward the hearthroom door. Open it quietly. Inside, the fire has burned lower. Still alive. But smaller than it was. The 3 logs from earlier are now 2. One has collapsed into coals, its shape gone, just a bright red-orange mass in the center of the hearth. The 2 remaining logs lean against it, sharing its heat. The sleeping man is deeply asleep. His breathing slow and audible. The leather worker is gone. The young person who made the tea is also gone. Just the sleeping man and the fire and the warm, smoky air. You look at the fire for a long time. The coals pull slightly as the air moves through them. A rhythmic brightening and dimming. Not fast. Just slow enough to follow. Bright, dim, bright, dim. The fire breathing in its own way. Living by the same rhythm as everything else in this place tonight. You close the door softly. Back into the courtyard. The cold again. The snow again. Near the inner gate, you notice something you have not seen before. A stone basin set into the wall at knee height. Circular. Perhaps 30 centimeters across. It has collected snow over the course of the night. A smooth dome of white fills it. At the center of the dome, a single small impression, a drop of water fell from somewhere above and landed, leaving a tiny perfect crater in the snow. The drop is frozen now. A small star shape. Made by one falling drop of water, preserved by the cold before it could spread. You look at it. Then you walk on. The inner gate stands half open as it has all night. You pass through it. Into the outer courtyard. Smaller, quieter. The snow here is undisturbed since you last crossed it hours ago. Your footprints from early in the night are still visible, just barely. The edges softened by new snow. But the basic shape of them remains. 2 lines of prints crossing the courtyard toward the inner gate. The record of your arrival. You walk to the outer gate. Stand in the archway. The torch above you burns low now. Still alive. But smaller than it was. The oil or tallow in it nearly consumed. It will go out before morning. Or someone will come and renew it before dawn. Through the gate arch, the outside world. The path descending. White. Completely white now. The individual stones no longer visible beneath the snow. Just a white slope, the path suggested by its angle, by the way the trees pull back on either side. The forest below dark. The mist in the valley. The clouds above and everywhere. You look at it for a moment. This is where you came from. The path you climbed in the cold. The forest you moved through. The stones you stepped on. All of that is still there. Beneath the snow. Beneath the night. Waiting for morning. You turn back. through the gate arch, into the outer courtyard, through the inner gate, into the familiar inner courtyard. The torch still burning, just the covered walkway. The snow on the courtyard floor smooth now. All the footprints of the night leveled. Everything settled. You cross to the far end of the courtyard. Not toward the gate. Not toward the upper passages. You pause near the base of the courtyard staircase. You consider climbing to the battlement one more time. But you do not. The night has moved past the hour for watching. This is the hour for resting. The fortress knows this. Its sounds have told you. The quieting. The fires burning lower. The voices gone. Just the watchman and the wind and the snow and the torch. Everything else has found its rest. You move toward a doorway you have passed several times without entering. Set into the base of the main building. Low, wooden, simple. The wood of it is smooth at the center. Polished by hands. A long history of hands opening this same door, at this same hour, for the same reason. You try it. It opens easily, without sound, as though it has been waiting. A small room, just inside the building's base. Low ceiling. One lamp. A sleeping platform built from the wall, wider than the one you found earlier. Long enough for a person to stretch fully. Covered with several layers of wool. A blanket folded at the foot. Everything arranged as though intended. As though expected. The room is warm. Not from a hearth. There is no hearth. But the building above generates heat. The fires on the upper floors and the long hearth have been warming the stone all evening. The stone has taken it in. Now it releases it slowly. Gently. The walls of this room give warmth like a living thing. Not hot. Just warm. Steadily, reliably warm. You sit on the edge of the sleeping platform. The layers of wool compress slightly beneath you. You feel the solidity of the stone below them. But the wool between you and the stone is generous. The room holds its warmth. The lamp on the wall shelf is small. Its flame perfectly still. You remove your cloak. Or rather, you feel yourself settle. The act of arriving somewhere. Of recognizing that this is where the night wants you to be. You sit for a moment. Then you lie back. The wool receives you. The ceiling of the room is stone, arched, low, the same gray-brown as everything else in this fortress. You look at it. In the lamplight, the texture of the stone is visible. Small variations in color. A fine crack along one arch, filled with old mortar. A patch where the stone is lighter, where moisture once worked through and then stopped. The ceiling holds the history of the room in its surface. The sounds of the fortress come to you faintly. Through the stone. Through the walls. The wind outside, a low, distant pressure. Somewhere above, a footstep. The watchman. Still walking. Still present. Then quiet again. The fire sounds from the upper room, so faint here that they are more felt than heard. A warmth in the stone that carries some trace of the sound of it. The fire burning. The night burning on. You close your eyes. Or rather, your eyes simply close. Without decision. The warmth of the room. The weight of the wool. The sound of the wind becoming something you feel rather than hear. In the quietness, small sounds come forward. The almost nothing of the lamp burning. The faintest creak of the building above you, the wood in the roof contracting in the cold. A single, small sound and then silence. Then another, different sound. The fortress settling into the night, making the small adjustments that old stone buildings make. Not structural. Just the natural speech of materials responding to temperature, to cold, to snow on the roof, to the weight of winter. The sounds are not alarming. They are simply the voice of the place. You have heard the place all night. Its louder voice, the footsteps, the conversations, the fires, the wind. Now its quieter voice. The one that is always underneath. You breathe. The wool is warm where your body has warmed it. The stone below the wool holds its own warmth from the fires above. You are between two warmths. The warmth you made, and the warmth the fortress made. Both of them reaching you from different directions. From above and below. Meeting where you lie. The lamp on the shelf. Its small circle of light. Through your closed eyes you sense rather than see it. A faint amber presence. Warm on the inside of your eyelids. Or imagined there. It makes no difference. It is present either way. You think of the spinner. Her spindle dropping and rising in the firelight. The thread growing slowly between her fingers. Something made from nothing, one small twist at a time. You think of the man tending the long hearth. His patient circuit. Keeping the heat even. Keeping the warmth distributed. Keeping the night livable for everyone inside. You think of the donkeys in their shelter. Their slow breathing. Their complete indifference to the snow. To the wind. To the hours. These thoughts come and go. Without sequence. Without purpose. Just the passing images of a night that was full of things. The wind presses against the outside wall. You feel it as a sound. Not cold. Just sound. The wall is between you and the cold. The wall is doing what it was built to do. Holding the cold outside. Holding the warmth inside. Holding you. The lamp burns. In the fortress, all the lamps burn. The lamp burns. In the fortress, all the lamps burn. The torches burn. The fires burn. The mountain holds the fortress. The fortress holds the fires. The fires hold the people. And the night holds all of it. Everything in its place. Everything sufficient. You breathe. Slowly. One breath. Then another. The rhythm of it slowing as the warmth settles deeper. Outside, the snow continues. Settling on the battlement. On the terrace you stood on. On the stone walls. On the path you climbed hours ago. On the beech trees and the hornbeam trees and the root systems and the moss and the frozen puddles and the small hidden stream beneath its skin of ice. On all of it. Gently. Without urgency. The night is very late now. The deepest hour. The hour that belongs entirely to the dark. Before the first faint paleness that is still hours away. Just the dark, and the snow, and the wind, and the fortress holding against all of it. Holding easily. As it has always held. Your breath is slower. The lamp on the shelf burns small and steady. The ceiling above you does not move. The stone is warm. The wool is deep. Somewhere far above, the watchman makes his circuit. step by step along the battlement, his breath visible, his cloak pressed by the wind. He does not need you to be awake for him. He is awake so that you do not need to be. The fortress takes the night, takes the weight of the mountain, takes the cold, takes the wind, and holds all of it outside these walls, outside this room, outside the warm circle of this lamp. You are inside. The sound of the wind becomes the sound of breathing. The sound of breathing becomes the sound of snow. The sound of snow becomes something quieter than sound. The lamp burns. Outside, the night continues. The beech trees stand in the dark. The hornbeams. The path winding down through all of them, snow-covered, patient, waiting for morning. The valley below, invisible, sleeping. The mountain around the fortress, older than the fortress, older than every name that has been given to it. The mountain simply being itself, and the fortress on its shoulder, and the walls of the fortress, and this room within the walls, and you within this room, so small, so held, so warm. The lamp burns lower, not out, not yet, just lower. The circle of its light a little smaller, the shadows at the edges of the room a little deeper. But you are in the center of it, in the warmth, in the quiet. The snow settles on the parapet, on the gate arch, on the terrace at the top, on the path, on the trees. Everything is covered. Everything is quiet. Everything is held. One breath. Then another. Then the sound of the fortress breathing around you. Stone and fire and wind and snow. All of it breathing together. All of it one thing. This night. This mountain. This place that has held so many winters. And will hold many more.